Let's try again. All right, now, welcome everybody. We're absolutely here now. Welcome to our conversation today about digital in demand. And so we're going to be taking some time to understand this ILO Global Business Disability Network initiative supported by GIZ, and Bernd will be addressing us in a moment. If I could just say a few words about our session. We have some very interesting speakers from all over the world. I'm going to introduce them now, and then we'll bring them in since everyone except Bernd is coming in virtually as our program develops. So the key of our conversation today is about how we enable people with disabilities to gain the digital skills that enable them to get jobs, because of course we're looking for the skills that are in demand by employers, and we're looking at restructuring the way labor markets work. So our speakers today, Jürgen Menze from the ILO's Global Business Disability Network will start the program. And then we have Bernd Schramm, who is with GIZ, the German government's international development agency, and is part funding this program with the ILO. I'm the strategic advisor to the ILO's Global Business Disability Network, and of course a proud ambassador of the Zero project. We then have Daniel Otumbai Omondi, who is a graduate of the Bridge Academy program in Kenya. He has sent a 5-minute video presentation, which I'm really looking forward to, because I'm sure you'll agree that it's people with disabilities that this is really all about. Then we have Simon Brown from Sightsavers, and our colleague Tabie Kioko from Safaricom in Kenya, talking about the Bridge Academy program that's bringing people with disabilities into the digital talent pipelines of companies like Safaricom. Then we have Lesa Bradshaw, an extraordinary social entrepreneur from South Africa, who'll be talking about the next stage in the development of that Digital Academy program as new ones open up in South Africa. So if I could just ask Jürgen Menze, Jürgen from Geneva, can you come in now and say our opening remarks?
Yes, here I am. Thank you very much, Susan. Well, I think you already presented in a nutshell what this is all about, of course. And from the ILO perspective, I mean, just a little bit of history in the ILO about what we did for many years in the disability context. We very much focused on improving the skills, not only digital skills. I mean, digital skills are only having come up in the last few years, really. But over decades, the ILO has tried to improve the employability of persons with disabilities by focusing on their skills, right? Upskilling, reskilling, and so on. What we have neglected for quite some time, also as ILO, is looking at the demand side of the labor market. So what are employers really looking for? What are the skills they really need to compete in the modern labor market? And obviously, digital skills are one set of skills that are highly in demand. We cannot think of other skills, but digital skills, we see that with the right skill set in the digital economy, it's much easier to get a decent job, as we would say in the ILO, compared to the traditional training that oftentimes people with disabilities still receive in segregated settings, in sheltered workshops, where skills are trained, delivered, which are not really useful. You know, we need to change what kind of skills persons with disabilities have access to in a non-discriminatory, equitable way. And ideally, we move also away from disability-specific trainings. Of course, they have their relevance, and hear about that also in the session. But we need to ensure that we get a good number of people with disabilities trained on digital skills, on other skills that are highly in demand. And this can only happen if we improve in the sense of making more inclusive mainstream training providers. So who are the big training providers that can deliver digital skills, and how can we make them more inclusive of persons with disabilities, improve their accessibility overall? And there again, now coming back to the the business and the employer side of things, we can only, or not only, but we are much more successful in doing so if we get a critical number of companies together and work together with training providers and say, look, this is what we really need. How can we do this? What do you need to do differently? What can we do as an employer to work together and get more and more with disabilities who have the right skills, the digital skills we need, and provide them with opportunities. Susan was in the ILO context, in the GBDN context, was the mastermind of what we now frame or coin as digital in demand, and we were very happy and lucky to jump on it and now continue working with Susan on this initiative, starting with a mapping exercise in 5 Asian countries, for China, Bangladesh, Indonesia, the Philippines, and did I miss somebody? Did I already say Bangladesh? Anyways, 5 Asian countries, and with the financial support also of GIZ, so our gratitude in the ILO, also thank you to GIZ and Bernd, obviously specifically, to make this possible in the Asian context. And luckily, we have already experiences around the world, but today we'll hear specifically about the experiences in Africa, in Kenya, and in South Africa. So with this, I'll keep quiet, and I'm very much looking forward to the other presenter today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. I must say this is very strange for me, having colleagues coming in on screen instead of right next to me. But right next to me, I do have Bernd Schramm. And so, Bernd, from your perspective at GIZ, why does business matter when we're talking about transforming the employment prospects of disabled people?
Yeah, thank you very much, Susan. First of all, it's really lovely to be here and join this excellent panel with my dear colleagues. And my appreciation also to everybody who joins this, this nice event digitally. Yeah, my name is Bernd Schramm. I'm heading a global project on the inclusion of persons with disabilities within German Development Cooperation. We are commissioned by the German government. It's a project implemented by GIZ, the German Agency for International Cooperation, and we work with governments, civil society, businesses, and academia. I don't want to bore you too much with the details of our project, but I would like to answer the question from our facilitator, why business partnerships really matter for GIZ. Well, we all want to improve the life chances of persons with disabilities, and we know that economic participation is crucial to ensure their full and effective participation. That's why we have to create talent pipelines that are attractive and efficient for businesses. In other words, we must enable persons with disabilities to gain the skills that are in demand. The untapped potential of so many qualified and not yet qualified persons with disabilities is a lost opportunity for economic growth and development. In order to find the right match between skills development and labor market needs, we have to involve the private sector from the beginning in any training program and also in digital innovations. In our Global Disability Inclusion Program at GIZ, we feel the need to more effectively mobilize the power and influence of the private sector as valued stakeholders and potential partners. They have a crucial role to play in delivering our development objective. Why is this the case? Well, the power of business is stronger than any development effort. The way the private sector operates affects our life in every sphere, and most of the SDGs anyway cannot be solved without the involvement of the private sector. So we need businesses also to meet the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, what we really see is often communications and cultural gaps between businesses and development organization. There is a need to build the business confidence of development partners, and the best way of doing this is to engage with the business community in very practical and SDG-related partnerships. Only together we can build a more inclusive ecosystem of different stakeholders that all contribute with their own strength to an aligned development objective. Let me give you 3 examples of our work. One example is the fantastic cooperation we are having with Sightsavers, Safaricom, and other valued partners in supporting the Bridge Academy in Kenya. We have a few colleagues here on the panel that are going to talk about this wonderful collaboration in Kenya. Another excellent cooperation is our partnership with Atos, one of the leading European tech companies. They are also here at the Zero Project Conference. Last year, we conducted a so-called ICT for Inclusion Challenge together. We were looking for innovative digital solutions to improve inclusive education for Africa. And the response was really overwhelming, as were the ideas coming out of this challenge. We received more than 200 applications from 37 countries. We went through a tough process to finally select the 3 winning teams. In total, we had 400 participants, almost half of them were women, and all included persons with disabilities in their ideation and development stage. In terms of outreach, it is remarkable that we had more than 25,000 views on our challenge website. And another example I want to give is the collaboration, the pioneering work with the ILO Global Business and Disability Network, as just mentioned by Jürgen Menze, in promoting structured partnerships with businesses which enable significant numbers of disabled people to gain the digital skills employers require and to find meaningful jobs. Through such partnerships with the private sector, we expand the return on investment, reach, and impact of our development programs. We also reach to influential people, innovators, and to new customers and clients. We would not be able to achieve this within our own programs. We need partners with different expertise to scale the impact of our work, as we cannot do this alone. This way, we are becoming also more sustainable. Therefore, we are keen to learn as we pioneer a fresh approach to crafting partnerships with business in programs and initiatives which drive systematic and lasting change, such as integrating persons with disabilities into mainstream job creation and digital skills development. Last week was the Global Disability Summit. I think many of you also joined the sessions of the Global Disability Summit with its motto, "Together we can create real change for people with disabilities." So let's walk the talk by ensuring no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bernd. I wanted to pick up, as I say a few words about what digital in demand is really all about, on your phrase, the fresh approach. I don't think there's anyone at this event who's under any illusion that we're really seeing a breakthrough when it comes to bringing significant numbers of people with disabilities into meaningful jobs and careers. We seem to be stuck, if you like, doing the same things in the same way over and over. And then the tendency is, of course, to say, well, the reason disabled people aren't getting into work is either because of the disability or because of the employer. Actually, I think where we're seeing the real opportunity now is that we need to stand back and say, actually, we're describing an inefficient labor market, that any labor market which makes it needlessly difficult for an employer to recruit from the widest possible pool of talent, well, it's inefficient as well as unfair. And for me, as you travel the world talking to employers, they're saying, we can't find suitable candidates with disabilities. And then we get the blame for not hiring them, but they don't come forward. And people with disabilities saying, well, we can't find employers willing to give us a chance to prove what we can do. So for me, the challenge here has always been that we need labor markets that get a much better balance between push and pull. Push are the interventions, the services, the supports, the government policies, which in effect push people with disabilities at the world of work in general and hope that somehow they find the right employer with the right vacancy at the right time. Pull interventions in a labor market are those which enable an employer to pull suitable candidates towards a particular vacancy at the right time so that they can then move in, get the job, and develop their careers. What we have in most labor markets is a complete imbalance. The focus is all on push, pushing people with disabilities who often do not have the right skills, still doing woodworking classes in Dubai, wherever, where because there is no intervention designed to help the employer to recruit and to pull the right people towards those vacancies, it just doesn't work nearly as well as it should. And most people with disabilities who get work often would argue, well, they've gone around the whole system anyway and done it themselves. And so what we're trying here is to take this fresh approach that Bernd's talking about, that we have to make it easier for the employer to recruit. If that's a prime purpose, focusing on getting that balance and pull, that means we have to make it easier for people with disabilities to get the skills employers are looking for. So we're looking at digital skills now because everybody around the world needs digital skills, but it could be, of course, skills in any other sector. So you make it easier for people with disabilities to get mainstream certifications and qualifications that the employers recognize, to then bring them routinely into the talent pipelines that the employers use when they go to fill jobs that require those skills. Which means, of course, that we have to encourage the mainstream training providers, whether it's Cisco academies or Salesforce programs or Microsoft, whatever those certifications might be, we have to persuade them that actually they can open their doors to people with disabilities, that it isn't appropriate or helpful or in any way sensible to put people with disabilities automatically into separate programs where actually the employers aren't connected directly. So we open up the doors to mainstream training, and we do this by starting with the employers, bringing employers together in talent compacts. These are managed networks of companies who say to the training provider, any person with a disability that comes through your course who meets a certain agreed standard of performance, it could be the academic or it could be any other kind of performance measure they want. Any of those trainees with disabilities who get to that standard are offered guaranteed interviews with companies in the compact that interest the individual, and companies in the compact make available opportunities like internships, work experience, apprenticeships. And the compact has a management team, 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 people, depending on the size of the compact, whose job it is to help the trainers to up their game on disability, support the employers as they build their disability confidence, and link the employers closely to those training providers so that the individuals can move from getting the certifications that the employers want into the jobs. Now, what's really interesting as we look at labor markets everywhere is some people are funded to do some training, and some people might, if they're disability agencies, be funded to do a bit of placement, it's called, the push. But no one is actually funded or tasked with coordinating it, to enabling mainstream providers to up their game, helping the employers up their game, linking the two so that individuals who get the qualifications have that avenue straight into opportunities, which make it much more likely they'll get a job. And of course, from the participating employers, it means that they get first shot when they're trying to fill cybersecurity jobs at candidates coming through who have got the cybersecurity certifications they're wanting, and they're demonstrating as responsible corporate citizens that they are actually enabling the entire labor market to be both more efficient and more fair by bringing more people who are marginalized in that labor economy into the mainstream. And so the mapping that we're doing in the Asia Pacific with the support of GIZ, is designed to start to do the basic information gathering. What skills are most in demand in Indonesia? Where are the employers going now to find individuals with those skills? How do we bring people with disabilities into those talent pipelines? And what kind of support needs to be offered to both training providers and to the business community? And then the question, of course, would be, how do we create these networks of companies who linked with the training providers? How do we find the sustainable business model that makes sense there? I'm very encouraged by the fact that in the States, Pat Ramczyk, who has created the Bridge Academy model, has found companies prepared to pay to be part of a process which gives them access to talented people with the skills they need on a privileged first-come basis. So if I could have my slide up, I tried to put all of this into one slide. Let's see if it works. If it comes up, yeah, there it is. Does that work? Where I've said, so you have to persuade the training providers that it's sensible and to do equal opportunities, if you like. Why don't the training providers make the same adjustments we expect the employers to make? We help them to audit their processes so they can remove obstacles in their control. We build the disability confidence so they can deliver quality training. We create these managed business compacts. And then what we start to see, I know, will be the companies coming together with people with disabilities to say, actually, there are government policies that are getting in the way. We've done our bit, but there's inaccessible transport. How do we get around that? Or there are policies relating to the benefit system which discourage people from coming forward for work. The point being that it's an ongoing process that over time we'll see the business community starting to understand the benefit of investing in human potential in their labor markets in a way which benefits every employer, while of course driving economic benefits for all. So that's what we're up against. That's what we're going to do. And that's where we're looking for allies and supporters who can help us to figure out who in that yellow line at the bottom, whose job is it to drive that change. And my instinct is that the private sector is best placed to start to move across to say, well, we need a more efficient supply chain of talent, if you like. It's an efficiency, almost a logistics challenge. And there are lots of private sector organizations out there who think they know a lot about logistics, so we want to get them involved. Right, that's enough from me. So I'm now going to introduce someone who's really what it's all about, Daniel. Now, Daniel, who is one of the graduates from the Academy program in Kenya that we're talking about today, Daniel is sent through a short video just to give a sense of really what this is all about and why it matters. So if we could see his video now, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Otumbai Daniel and I'm a person with disability residing here in Kenya and a recent graduate of the Bridge IT Academy in Nairobi. It is with great honor and privilege that I get the opportunity to talk at the Zero Project Conference 2022 today. First and foremost, I would like to say that getting the opportunity to join the Bridge IT Academy was like a miracle and one of the best things that has ever happened in my life. I term it a miracle because I only got an application link to apply for this program through a WhatsApp group, and being that this was a path I'd always wished to take, I never hesitated to give it a try. And after going through an interview and series of tests, I was not surprised when I received an acceptance letter to join the Bridge Academy. I've always had a strong passion in IT and a dream to have an IT career someday, but never got that opportunity until such savers came through, and I will forever be grateful for that. Before joining the academy, I was just staying at home, trying to look for any opportunity that might come by after completing my bachelor's degree in business administration. Through the 9 months at the academy, taking Cisco curriculum in networking and network security, I have to say that I gained tremendous knowledge and skills, both in theory and practical, using Cisco devices with the help and supervision from our trainers, whom I believe are the best. And with this, I was able to sit for my CCNA industrial exams and pass. And now I'm so proud that I'm a certified Cisco network associate. Besides gaining the technical skills, I was also able to gain some social and communication skills at the academy through talking and interacting with people from different places each and every day. And this is one of the reasons why I'm able to talk to you here today at the Zero Project Conference. Currently, I'm doing my internship at Safaricom PLC, which is one of the best and giant telecommunication companies here in Kenya. And it is such a privilege because I get to learn from the best. And I believe that this is just the beginning of my brighter future in the IT career. This has also given me the opportunity to prove to the world, and especially to people with disability, that we are all very capable of doing it just like others. And I also believe that after my internship, I will not only get a permanent job somewhere, but be one of the best in my career field. Joining the Bridge IT Academy did not just bring a positive impact in me as an individual, but to my family as a whole, because now I can be certain that one day I will be able to be independent economically and be able to take care of my family and even to support other people living with disability out there. It has always been like a norm or a belief that people with disability cannot manage or handle such technical courses or jobs. But through this opportunity and program, I am able to prove them otherwise and to change that narrative in the face of the world. And for that, I'm so grateful. Finally, I want to take this opportunity to encourage potential employers and other organizations to start adopting the program of inclusivity at work, so that they may give people with disability a chance and an opportunity to try and showcase their expertise even in the field there. Because through inclusion and inclusivity, people with disability can get the opportunity to work in their workplaces just like other people. I also want to take this opportunity to encourage people living with disability out there that they should stop staying in their comfort zones and get out there and look for opportunities, because there are opportunities out there just waiting for you, but you can never know where it might lead you until you give it a try. So just get out there and grab an opportunity, then see where it leads you. Otherwise, thank you all for inviting me to this event. May God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I'm glad that you're also joining us, I know, virtually. I love that phrase, I'm going to be one of the best. I think we should hold on to that. And then to quickly move to more detail, actually, about that program in Kenya, I know we have Simon Brown from Site Savers, and hopefully Tabie Kioko has joined. So Simon, are you going to take the lead on this session for us with Tabia?
Yep. Hi, Susan. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'll take the first part, and then Tabie will take the second part. So if we can bring up the slide, please, Maria, that would be really helpful. Yeah. So, yeah. So we've kind of introduced the IT Bridge Academy a couple of times already in the conversation, and I think it's quite important to maybe unpack it a little bit to understand exactly what is this IT Academy that Daniel is now a graduate of in Nairobi. Because I think it's a really great example of what you've been saying, Susan, of what Bernd has been saying, and what Jürgen has also been saying around these coalitions, these ecosystems, these compacts that bring together different actors within what I would call a value chain, and how they begin to work together to produce these pools of talent, which are going to be in demand in this market, is the global market for many years to come. Now, this IT Academy, it's not, I mean, in the sense of the curriculum, this is nothing new. Yeah, as Daniel explained, he's been studying a curriculum from Cisco, which has been around since the kind of mid-1990s, really. When I was working in IT, or when I was coming to the end of working in IT, but it's, and many millions of people have passed through mainstream academies all over the world. But unfortunately, very few people with disabilities. Yeah, that we've recognised that whilst the industrial certification is incredibly important, people with disabilities have always struggled to access that mechanism. So Patrick Rumzek, who you did also call out, Susan, a few minutes ago, began to think this through in the US several years ago on how could we not adapt the curriculum, but how could we adapt the delivery of that curriculum in ways which actually is accessible to people with disabilities, and which then produces the same certification, but also in creating these coalitions, this ecosystem actually gets people to have at least a work experience at the end of it, which will be vitally important to then a transition into employment. And this is then the ecosystem that we've created in Nairobi. Yeah? As I said, we take the same curriculum from Cisco, the same certification, and we host it in a government education institution called the National Industrial Training Authority in their Nairobi campus. Yeah? This is a significant vocational skills training center in Nairobi. And through a competitive process, we then managed to select NITA to host the academy physically on their campus. The delivery methodology then comes from Patrick Rumzek's organization in the US called 3 Talents, to then adjust then the delivery and the modality of delivery to be accessible. But we then bring into the coalition some really other very, very important partners. The umbrella Organization of Persons with Disabilities in Kenya, the United Persons Persons with Disability Kenya, UDPK, who have the responsibility or had the responsibility for then identifying candidates to competitively apply to be enrolled into the academy, but also to continue to support those students throughout the academy. They're a really, really important job within this coalition. And we bring in Accenture and particularly their Skills to Succeed platform to complement then not only the technology skills that come from Cisco, but the job seeker confidence skills that are really necessary to position people to be really competitive in the job market. And then, of course, the brilliant Safaricom and the guarantee of internships that come at the end of that training curriculum to give people that chance to experience work and to further develop their technology skills, but also their employment readiness. Yeah, and Tabie will explain much more on that. Yeah, so we create a really important ecosystem. We remove barriers, unnecessary barriers. There is no reason at all. Having worked in IT for 20 years in the 1980s and 1990s, there is no reason at all that to work in IT you need a degree. You don't. You need an aptitude and you need an attitude. So if you remove these educational barriers, then that's already a huge progress. You take away the cost. It's unrealistic for people who are unemployed, and particularly those of disabilities, to be able to afford significant costs to study skills that are going to benefit an economy, and they should not be expected to pay for those skills. And of course, then the adjustments around the built environment and the modality of delivery then create this space which is accessible and within which people with disability can absolutely thrive. And what we see then is the results. We opened this up for a 2-week application window, and we received almost 500 applications of people with disabilities in Kenya. 2 weeks. Advertised on social media and through the networks of organizations of persons with disabilities. And those 2 weeks were over the Christmas period in 2019, 2020. Yeah, so it's a period when people are perhaps not paying a huge amount of attention to looking for job opportunities or study opportunities, but we still got 500 applications through a process of selection that looked at people's attitude, the motivations for being part of this program, but also their aptitude. We then managed to get down to 40 students who studied for 9 months in the academy at the National Industrial Training Authority. 37 of those succeeded in gaining their industry accreditations through the CCNA or CCT certifications from Cisco, and 33 of those are now with Tabie in Safaricom, just starting off on their 6-month internships. So Daniel and all his colleagues. And of course, it won one of the, I think, quite prestigious Be the Bridge Award winner in earlier in this year, in January 2022. So you get the idea then of the kind of coalition ecosystem that we're creating. I'm going to hand across now to Tabie to talk a little bit more around what these internships actually provide and what they will mean for the 33 students who have transitioned across from the academy to Safaricom. So Tabie, over to you. And I think the next slide, please, Maria.
Thank you very much, Simon. I'm really excited to be part of this conference because it goes a long way in sending the right message to everybody about, accelerating the disability agenda. For me, last week on the 8th of February was a very exciting time. As Simon said, when we were handed over 33 interns with various disabilities, and this was an inaugural program. And back at work, we were very excited, and we looked at different areas where we would place them. And the journey actually began way before, and it began with training, preparing the line managers, preparing the teams about how to embrace disability. Because some of these teams had never worked, have never worked with different people with disabilities. So it was only fair to just prepare them, let them ask questions about how to handle and manage disabilities, various disabilities. And we did the initial training, I think a year ago, with Site Savers and UPDK, who did a fantastic job. We had over 400 line managers just join on the training. And then in January, about the 20th, we did another customized training with the line managers where the 33 interns were going to be placed. And there was a lot of excitement in the air and a lot of expectation and a lot of anxiety. And we onboarded them on the 8th of February. And we organized for a meet and greet with the line managers who met them at Safaricom and, began conversations, breaking the ice with them, just understanding what support they would require in order for them to thrive in the new business environment. And for us, this is truly what I call transforming lives. I sat there looking at the various teams, just, conversing and engaging, and I was very moved. And it actually brought our purpose of transforming lives to life. The 33 interns have been placed now in various functions, and they're all doing different things, from big data to cybersecurity to artificial intelligence, cloud computing, IT administration. So they will all, gain a lot of experience in various fields. We will also ensure that we take care of their soft skills through, trainings on how they can, sharpen their skills and how they can present themselves for interviews. We also have on the pipeline mentorship and coaching for them. Because we believe it is at this time when it is critical for them to be mentored so that they don't lose the momentum that they are gaining. So for us, we are supporting them the best way we can. We are providing, we've provided fully kitted laptops for them with the various business tools and softwares for the visually impaired. We've given them JAWS, big screens for those who have visual impairment, low vision, and so on and so on. And we are now going to take our line managers, some of our line managers, through sign language training, because some of them have actually in their teams, the interns who have hearing impairment. So there's a lot of excitement in the air, and we continue to support them to deliver what the business overall's mission is. So another thing is we've organized fireside chats with our leadership. And when I was speaking to them this morning, they were very, very excited because, they'll get to meet our top leadership. They will get to, hear their stories. And I think that kind of engagement, is going to go a long way in just creating the confidence that they all need. I know some of them on the first day, came to me and said, the minute I stepped in here, I began to debunk my self-limiting beliefs. I've always thought myself to be inferior, but now I believe I'm destined for greatness. And that really began to, to shape the conversation of you're here, you're going to do your best, and there's no turning back. And we are going to do, as Safaricom, we are going to do everything possible to ensure they get the best experience. They are learning, of course, from the top managers, the top engineers, and it's experiential learning where they are dealing with a live environment. They're dealing with a network. It's not a dummy. It's a live network. So I think it's very, very exciting for them. And they also having access to our learning platform, which is our Safaricom Business School that has over 4,000 courses. And we've also promised them that they, as they continue in the program, and if they're interested, we will sponsor them for further accreditation, further certification in anything that they would like to pursue. So for me, this is just the beginning. I thank all the partners for just coming through and making it happen. This is indeed a great dream that has come to life. And I wish to thank Site Savers in particular for mobilizing everybody else into spinning this into action. So thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Love that bit about the fireside chat with your senior leaders. Everybody's going to learn from that conversation. Wonderful. I'm now going to turn, last but not least by any means, to Lesa. Lesa, I'm going to be really cruel and say, could you take 7 minutes instead of 8? Could you cut it back just by a minute? We're almost on time. Lesa, of course, from South Africa, and you're going to build on the story I know about these Bridge Academies. I just wanted to say very quickly, of course, one of the most important things about the Bridge Academies is, yes, they are for people with disabilities, but they're a real challenge to the mainstream providers to say, well, actually, if these students can do so well on your curriculum here, they should be doing so well on your curriculum where you are. So, please, Lesa.
Hi, Susan, and thank you very much. Yes, so what I wanted to share, and I know that we're time restricted, so what I want to do is I really just want to unpack and say, when we're building a disability-confident digital economy, what is essential when we run programs like this to be able to make sure that we're creating real impact that is going to actually have a lived experience change where all stakeholders can benefit in this inclusive journey. So if I could just ask to move to the first slide, I thought I'd just start from a South African context specifically, just touching on one or two of the issues and in terms of what is common practice. So what are we doing at the moment in our skills development programs and in our standard approach in the economy that we've been doing for the last 20 years and it's not creating impact, versus what do we need to do differently, and how does that translate to a model like the Bridging Academy, which we are in the process of getting traction in South Africa. So in a very short nutshell, and I know Susan did touch on it, common practice seems to be around saying, well, let's teach people with disabilities the skills that we think that they can manage, rather than saying, let's identify skills that are needed in our economy and let's enable persons with disabilities to be able to have an equal opportunity to acquire those skills and to be able to go out there and compete in this economy. So it gives value to disability by saying we recognize that you have value to bring and we're going to equalize this opportunity for you to develop that skill and bring that value. The second common practice initiative is basically saying, well, we'll have segregated or special programs. Now, that in itself, if I look in South Africa, we've got an extraordinary amount of money being spent on what we call learnership programs, which are programs where you have 30% theoretical learning and you have 70% on-the-ground work experience training, which in theory is a brilliant idea. But what seems to be happening is that we're keeping these programs out of the real economy. We're keeping them off-site in separate programs that are only for people with disabilities, and they're not really impacting on the way we do business because they're sort of out of sight, out of mind. And what's happening is we feel good because we're spending money training people with disabilities, but we're not having to change anything around how we do business. So not only are we not equalizing our economy, but we're missing out on just an extraordinarily good opportunity to reap the benefits of having a diversity-enriched economy. So we've got to start changing the way we do things and say, yes, we might have specific interventions that build up disability confidence and skills, but we also need to make sure that all of our involved stakeholders are becoming more capacitated and more inclusive, where they're then able to say, well, we recognize this value, we're invested in training it up and in making sure that we do business in a different way that allows for this equalized opportunity for these skills to be delivered and for people with disabilities to get jobs and to compete equally. So the last point I want to say is that also a lot of employers tend to start the conversation by saying, well, let's bring in talent with a disability and we'll train them up. But what it's not recognizing is that our education system includes all the same barriers that our economy does. Okay, so that's a separate fight and a separate conference and a separate drive, but it all is so very much linked. So as employers, what can we do to go and change that in the education system so that we build a bigger pipeline and we open and unlock these potentials? So one of the things, for example, when we're doing, we're giving bursaries or we're giving, graduate sponsorship to people who are studying, is if you're paying an academic institution to train somebody in sort of tertiary or secondary education, hold them accountable to be inclusive in the way that they teach. That then unlocks youth that are then able to feed into programs like this, the Bridging Academy, which then feeds that talent pipeline into employers. So just moving to the next slide, if you could, I want to briefly just go through how this is done and what we think are the critical success factors for any program like this. And it's very much what we are intending to implement in our South African Bridging Academy, where we want to take the models that have been put out there, for example, in Kenya, and we want to be able to translate those into the South African economy to showcase how do we do this within the constructs of our labor legislation, good business practice, and how do we turn that into common business practice? The key success factors really lie with, first of all, starting a conversation to say, as employers, what talent do you need? Not what talent shall we develop, but what do you need? Because immediately you as a talent or as a career seeker are somebody that's in demand. So I can't tell you again how many candidates with a disability have been through learnerships in South Africa, and they've been through 4, 5, 6 learnerships. They've got multiple certification, but none of it is needed in the economy. So that doesn't translate to employment. So starting off with saying, whether it's cybersecurity training, whether it's IT developing, coding, programming, what do you need? Because straight away now, that in demand or that pull factor becomes something that's of interest to employers. Secondly, how do we build disability confidence in all stakeholders? So part of the model that we employ says, yes, we want to teach our candidates or our participants with a disability how to learn that knowledge. So yes, we're going to teach them the academic and the practical knowledge and that skill. But also, how do we give them what I like to call the voice and the pointy finger? So how do we teach people to be empowered in themselves? Because once they finish this program and they're out there in the real world, they have to know how to constructively navigate barriers and continue to be that change champion that's going to drive inclusion. So how do we support those individuals by building up that disability confidence amongst the students with disabilities and their first line networks? The third thing is, while we're doing that, how do we capacitate employers to change the way they think? And the best way to do that is to get them to realize the potential and the abilities of people with disabilities. So by building a relationship with the people that they're sponsoring in these academies, it means they get to know Daniel, not just a person with a disability. They get to see what that individual's potential and skills are, because they're different. People with disabilities are individuals. And then how do we take that and how do we make sure that while this individual is learning a skill, we can take that opportunity to go and change what needs to be changed in our working environment.
Lisa,
So
final few seconds. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sure. No problem, I'm nearly done. So the time we feed and we link that skill to the opportunity, we've got an equalized playing field with multiple stakeholders being disability confident, and it paves the way for good business practice all around. And that for me is the critical component of what an academy is about. It must be measured by employment that creates impact, and it must be equalizing amongst all stakeholders to enable that transition to happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And so I know our time's running out. I just want to say, any in our audience that's interested in supporting this work and this way of thinking, please do get in touch with either me personally directly or, of course, with Jürgen at the ILO Global Business Disability Network. Thank you very much for your attention today.